Hello. Hi, Zachary.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon.
Hello, testing audio. Shelly Blakeney here.
All right, well, welcome. Welcome to this panel. Okay, are you guys ready? My name is CM, and last name is Boryslawskyj. So I'm the board member of the Northeast regional area, and I'm also a treasurer as well. So I want to go ahead and take a moment to describe myself. I have short curly brown hair. I'm wearing a sleeveless black tank top, and then I have a little silver pin at the very front. I have some shelving behind me. I have some paintings, some books. I am also white. So go ahead and introduce yourselves on the panel, your name and what's your role, and then we can go from there, okay? Great. Any volunteers? Who wants to go first?
Hello, my name is Zachary Bastian. I am a white man wearing glasses with brown hair pulled back and a gray shirt.
Hello, I am Shelly Blakeney. I'm an African American woman, and I am wearing a black blouse with a cream colored jacket. Good afternoon.
Hello, I'm Sarah Leggin. I am a white female. I have blonde hair and I'm wearing a navy blue blouse. And I look forward to our panel discussion today. Thank you for having me.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. I'm Corian Zachary. I am a white non-binary individual with short brown hair and a blue dress with a white collar.
Okay, great. We're having some technical difficulties. I think people are having a hard time seeing Shelly. Is there any way you can brighten up your screen? I think some people in the audience are having a hard time seeing your screen, just an FYI. Maybe drop the shade behind you or something.
I'll try that. Sure.
The interpreter as well needs to step a little bit closer to the screen. I think some people in the audience are having a hard time seeing this interpreter as well. Do you mind stepping up? Yep, perfect. I know you're a little short, so if you could just, yep, that's much better, much better. All right, perfect. So, yeah, still, it's not, okay. So my first question is, I know someone wanted to change the agenda for today's meeting. So you can go ahead and explain what you wanted to do, and you can go ahead and start. And also our understanding is to focus on the 3 priorities on the agenda: broadband, and then the second one is affordability, and the third one is
I believe the third one is smart cities.
Smart feeds, thank you.
All right, well, this is Sarah speaking. I think what we had discussed is we'd provide a little bit of an introduction about each of the panelists and where we work, and a little background on our work for our respective companies. And then we would love to turn to the first topic of discussion about broadband connectivity, if that works for the group. So I'll go ahead and start with an introduction. I'm Sarah Leggin, and I am a Director of Regulatory Affairs at CTIA. So I advocate for the wireless industry before the FCC and other federal agencies on various policy areas, with a focus on consumer issues such as promoting wireless accessibility for people with disabilities. At CTIA, we're really proud to represent the wireless industry, from wireless providers to manufacturers and other innovators. And we are really grateful to continually work alongside our partners like TDI to help empower millions of people with hearing loss through the revolutionary powers of wireless technology. So before we dive into the discussion of those three main areas that CM described, I was hoping to just give a little bit of an overview of wireless accessibility. So wireless services and devices have become really central to consumers' lives, particularly for people with disabilities, since they can customize their wireless devices to help meet their unique and diverse needs. And the importance and value of wireless services has become even more pronounced during the COVID pandemic. And the wireless industry has really tried to rise to this challenge while continuing to deploy and enhance wireless services and devices. So just as a general overview, 4G LTE service is available to more than 99% of the population today. And wireless providers continually work on building new 5G networks across the country and bringing new 4G and 5G devices to market. And providers are always looking to expand accessible options there and try and enable consumers to choose from as many accessible options as possible. Today, there are over 1,500 accessible mobile phones that consumers can choose from, and more than 30 manufacturers around the world, at least based on the latest report from the Global Accessibility Reporting Initiative, or the GARI database, that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. In addition to those enhancements, wireless prices in the US have actually declined 45% since 2010. And that's all the while consumers are using more voice and text and data services than ever before. So by deploying and improving accessible wireless services while making those services even more affordable, the wireless industry has really tried to enhance access opportunities for people with disabilities. And as we'll talk about more later, through support for wireless from programs like the FCC's Emergency Broadband Benefit and the Emergency Connectivity Fund, which again, we'll talk about a little bit later, wireless innovations and services can really help bridge the digital divide for people with disabilities, so that wireless can continue to help keep people with disabilities connected to affordable and accessible wireless services. So to help make sure that people with disabilities, as well as seniors and veterans and their families and caregivers, can all find those devices and services that meet their needs, I just wanted to highlight that CTIA has a webpage called accesswireless.org. At that site, CTIA shares information about wireless services, handsets, and apps that help create new possibilities for all Americans and can help increase opportunities and inclusion for people with disabilities by helping people with a range of disabilities find the right mobile device that meets their unique needs. So on the homepage there, accesswireless.org, visitors can select from categories to help easily navigate which types of information you're looking for, including hearing, vision, mobility, speech, and cognition, as well as resources for seniors and veterans as well. And the GARI tool is actually embedded right within the database, within the website, excuse me. And it allows users to search and compare accessible devices and apps. And the database of industry resources that we also have in the website is a detailed list of the devices and services offered by wireless carriers and our community partners. And then just one specific page I hoped to highlight was on accesswireless.org's deaf and hard of hearing page. Visitors can find information on hearing aid compatible wireless handsets, telecoil and T-coil coupling, closed captioning, video and text communications, visual displays, tips for real-time text or RTT, TTY compatibility, wireless emergency alerts, and more. And then for individuals who prefer communicating with video using sign language and speech reading, they can navigate the mobile and wireless forums GARI database to search for phones that support their unique needs. So to learn more, again, that's accesswireless.org. So thanks so much for giving me extra time in this introduction. And I really look forward to discussing wireless accessibility and how providers continue to work hard to help keep everyone connected to accessible wireless services and devices, and then also participate in programs to help deliver even more affordable broadband services to all consumers, including those with disabilities. Thanks.
Thank you. This is Zach from, oh, go ahead, CM, I'm sorry, excuse me.
I just wanted to mention that the website is excellent. I wanted to praise Sarah for that. If you could just post the website link into the chat, that would be great. Thank you so much, Sarah. And then up next, Zachary, you can go ahead and start.
Thank you, CM. Again, this is Zachary Bastian from Verizon. I work on our Strategic Alliances team as part of our Public Policy and Legal Strategy Office. I just wanted to say thank you to Sarah. CTIA does a great job representing our industry and really leads on a lot of accessibility issues. So accesswireless.org is indeed a great website to go to if you want to learn more about what the industry is doing. It's a thrill to speak to TDI. Verizon has had a long-standing relationship with TDI. We really value you as our partner, and we love meeting our customers through forums like this. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions after this meeting. I'd be more than happy to speak with you. I would also like to point you to Verizon's specific portal on accessibility, which is verizon.com/accessibility. And that'll give you a lot more information on specific service offerings that are out there, and also the specific types of accessible customer service that we have built into Verizon, and the ways that you can choose to engage with us in a variety of forums just to get exactly what you need out of our service. We're really excited today to explore, beyond the overall industry and what we're doing as an industry to support accessibility, the specific things that Verizon has done to expand access and make sure that our tools are getting to the right place. Some of our broad policy priorities that touch on accessibility and we think will drive better outcomes for people with disabilities trying to access the internet, as well as some of the smart cities focused partnerships that have us incredibly excited about the future of accessibility. Some where we're really right now looking for high-level stakeholders within the deaf, blind, and hard of hearing communities to make sure that we're building standards for this next generation technology that are accessible as possible. And as always, we just value these opportunities first and foremost as a way to connect with you, a way to learn more about your concerns, a way to share information about what's going on with us. So it's a privilege to be on this panel, and I thank you so much for your attention today.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. And you have a wonderful Verizon commercial. We love that commercial. It shows disabled people and it's just wow. Wow, it's excellent. You did an excellent job with that. Thank you. All right, who wants to go next?
That would be me. Thank you, CM, Sarah, and Zach. By way of introduction, my name is Shelly Blakeney, and I'm a director with T-Mobile's Government Affairs Department based here in Washington, D.C. I advocate on behalf of the company, and I track consumer protection related topics such as accessibility and safety. Our company, which is based in Bellevue, Washington, right outside of Seattle, is committed to delivering an excellent mobile wireless communications experience, which includes top value, quality, and phenomenal customer service. We're building and deploying a robust 5G network, and we expect it will fuel product and communications innovations, creating a more inclusive, equitable, and interconnected experience for all. We're very pleased to be here with you today and look forward to further discussion. Thank you.
All right. T-Mobile took Sprint Relay, right? So it's all included and there's a lot of changes going on there and you guys are really running with it. So I definitely would love to talk about that topic with you a little bit later. So I guess we're going to move on to Corian.
Thank you so much. I'm Corian Zachary, Policy Counsel for State and Local Initiatives at Next Century Cities. At Next Century Cities, we work with local leaders and organizations nationwide to ensure that communities have the tools that they need to play a meaningful role in connecting every member of their community with reliable, affordable, high-speed internet access. And I saw that someone shared in the chat that people in Arizona are disconnected and that the broadband data doesn't accurately show how many people are lacking access. And that's been a really core part of our work. In May, we released a broadband mapping report that really highlights what local governments and state governments have done to improve data collection. But that has really been a core part of our work over the last few months. And many of the cities and counties and towns and villages that we work with have also reached out to residents directly to learn more about who remains disconnected, not just from infrastructure, but also who doesn't have the digital literacy tools or the devices that they need to use the internet. And so an increasing number of government and private services have moved online, as we know, and prioritizing and planning for digital equity and inclusion has really become a key strategy to achieving universal broadband. And at NCC, we work with communities to make sure that they are a part of that solution and that they have the resources and funding that they need to really fill those broadband gaps and to make sure that everyone in the community is able to use the internet equitably and that they have the services that they need to meet their ongoing needs as technology advances. So I'm so excited to be here today, and I look forward to sharing some insights that we've learned from speaking with those who are working at the local level on connectivity initiatives.
Excellent. It's an excellent topic. It's very important for all of us. There's a lot of deaf people. I would say about 50%, somewhere in that range. They can't afford internet at all. So when we're talking about, $150 or $200 per month, they can't manage that. And deaf people rely on VRS and they can't afford these services. So now I can't even make calls. I would say, for example, when we're talking about the speed, 150 megabytes BPS on average is what we're seeing. But with a video phone, that doesn't require that. It's 300 or more. And companies are going to charge you more money for getting a 300 or more rate. And that's because of, when you talk about net neutrality, that's something we have to look at. And that has to be removed. So of course, they remove that so people can get higher speeds of internet. And so I definitely would love to talk about that issue a little bit later, but I want to talk about this issue now. Is there any issue that, well, first and foremost, is it anything that you want to bring up now that you feel is important to you? Any current topics that are related to broadband? I understand Sarah was wanting to discuss some current issues that are going on with broadband, but I do like the topic that Corian brought up as well as terms of the gaps. So I just wanted to see what current issues that you want to talk about that relate to that. What are you seeing?
Well, this is Sarah. I'm happy to kick off the discussion about just making sure that we're focused on getting everybody connected to broadband. And I think Corian touched on some of those issues as well. I know that Shelly and Zach and CTIA and the wireless industry are really focused on that because we know how important getting everyone connected is, and we know how important wireless connectivity in particular is and has been as everything moved to remote in particular. And then also given that wireless technologies have a lot of accessible optionality and the ability for people with disabilities to use those to meet their needs. So just to kind of talk a little bit about what we're seeing and just kind of what the wireless industry is doing in relation to focusing on getting everybody connected to broadband. The wireless industry invests in and deploys advanced networks all the time to try to help bring even more connectivity and faster speeds to consumers across the country. As I noted before, 99% of the country has access to several different 4G providers, but we know that the work is never done. So we are always investing in and deploying more networks to help make sure that everybody's connected. We're always investing in increasing speeds as well. And the average 4G download speed is actually 31 times faster than it was in 2010, moving from 1.3 megabits per second to 41 megabits per second. So that's a big increase, but we know that there's always work to be done. So we're always trying to improve that for consumers across the country. And in addition to faster speeds, we're always working on enhancing our data packages so that consumers can have access to enhanced or unlimited data and even more powerful mobile devices to meet increasing demands every year. These network improvements in 4G were a real big catalyst in a lot of the significant increases in accessibility features in wireless devices today, and also really laid the groundwork for the boom of the app economy. And a lot of those apps are geared toward meeting the needs of people with disabilities. In addition, 4G networks allowed for features such as high definition voice and voice over LTE, which allows for simultaneous data and voice use, as well as higher bandwidths than previous technologies to enable a better experience. These increased transmission rates really enabled new ways of working, learning, and communicating over video for consumers who are deaf and hard of hearing and speech impaired, as well as for people with mobility limitations, because they help enable communications wherever you are, whether you're working remotely or just at home trying to communicate with friends or family. So 4G LTE really inspired a lot of innovation and promoted an astronomical increase in a lot of these optionalities and features and apps that help meet the needs of people with disabilities. As I mentioned before, more recently, providers have been hard at work building new 5G networks across the country and bringing new 4G and 5G devices to market. So these networks and devices will help revolutionize things like healthcare, transportation, and educational services, all of which will enable people with disabilities to open new doors to educational and employment opportunities, among many other aspects of a more inclusive world, particularly as consumers have moved to a virtual or remote way of life more and more during the pandemic. And just a few notes about kind of wireless connectivity during the pandemic in particular. This was just obviously a huge, unique challenge that I think we're continuing to reflect on and learn from and work on. So just based on just kind of a look back at the sudden change that really happened overnight for consumers, including consumers with disabilities, wireless connectivity became even more crucial. So as social distancing kicked in, consumers leaned more and more on their wireless services. And we saw huge increases in voice and data traffic in different places, as well as a host of new use cases that we didn't see before. So just a few stats here that I think are really helpful to understand. compared to before the pandemic, consumers' usage increased throughout the pandemic up to 40% more than it was before. And wireless providers not only really supported this dramatic increase in usage, but we also continue to strengthen networks, delivering median wireless speeds that increased by nearly 50% compared to before the pandemic. So as you can see by those numbers, wireless networks really tried to rise to the occasion to support this new surge in use. And that's facilitated by a lot of policies that help enable providers to continue to invest in and deploy these new networks, as well as legislation like the Communications and Video Accessibility Act that many of you are familiar with, that help promote advancements in accessibility through flexible and innovation and investment-friendly policies. So all that said, we know that there's more work to be done always to make sure that we connect everyone and ensure that everyone has enough connectivity. So to do that, in addition to kind of network and device deployment and innovation, we also, as a wireless industry, have focused a lot on programs to help ensure that consumers remain connected, particularly low-income consumers. We also helped ensure that over 2.4 million students were able to stay connected during the pandemic through remote learning solutions, including things like wireless hotspots. So I'll let Shelly and Zach talk a little bit more if they want about those particular programs and other efforts of the wireless industry to connect everyone to mobile wireless broadband.
Sure, and this is Zach speaking.
Oh,
I can go ahead, Sienna.
Pause. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Zachary, please go ahead. Zach, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I'm sorry. So I just wanted to piggyback and include some points in there because I'm seeing in the Q&A and from some of the questions that have already come in on questions of affordability. So I just wanted to touch on that because it does seem relevant to our discussion right now. First of all, Verizon has a program called Connected Learning where we did something very similar to what Sarah was referencing on helping connect students during the pandemic, where we offered a 4G LTE service at a deep discount where we were able to offer it at a bulk rate to school districts. So whole states could negotiate this rate to keep their students connected at home during the pandemic. We also launched the Verizon Fios Forward package, which I'm going to drop into the chat right now so you can check it out. And this is actually a home internet Fios service available at $20 a month if you qualify for Lifeline for 200 megabits up, 200 megabits down home internet service. So a very strong, robust internet option available at a low cost. CM, did you need to say something? I just saw you sighing. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't interrupting you. But beyond that, we absolutely agree that affordability is a big issue, which has led to our support of the Emergency Broadband Benefit and membership in the Broadband Equity Alliance, which is a coalition of industry and advocacy groups united to support a more long-term affordability benefit. The EBB, which the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, administers, has already seen a lot of demand, and we believe that the FCC has learned quite a lot about the administration of the benefit. We've been a partner in making outreach to make sure that people know that the emergency broadband benefit is out there and how to best expeditiously get the funds to the people that need them. But when that money runs out, and it will, the problem of affordability isn't going to go away. So now is the time to tell your member of Congress, tell your senator that this is the time to create within this infrastructure package a more long-term affordability benefit to allow this type of subsidy so as many people as who need internet service can get it. And our position is that the way that this benefit should apply, it should be as agnostic as possible based on the internet that's available in your area, whether that's wireless, whether that's cable, whether that's wired internet, whatever it is. We think the benefit should be able to go towards that as long as it meets the FCC's definition of broadband. And we've learned a lot through our conversations with stakeholders within your communities. Talking to example for the American Association of People with Disabilities, they pointed out that many people with disabilities have roommates. So their suggestion was they think the affordability benefit should apply to each person within that household who would qualify for it versus the household as a whole. And this is really the exact kind of specific advocacy that speaks to those concerns that would help our representatives understand your community needs and write legislation that will meet them. So a lot of great questions about affordability, and that's just one suggestion that we have on a way to approach it, but obviously it's a very complicated problem.
Hi, CM. Hi, CM, if I may. I just want to touch on one of the programs I know that that T-Mobile was involved in to assist as an initiative called our Project 10 Million. Thank you for allowing me, time to just mention it. Project 10 Million is our company's $10.7 billion initiative aimed at delivering internet connectivity to millions of underserved student households at no cost to them. We're partnering with various school districts across the country, and the program offers wireless hotspots along with free high-speed data and access to laptops and tablets at cost. So definitely wanted to mention that, and then also touch on and just mention that T-Mobile is taking part in some of the programs that Zach mentioned, the EBB and the ECF programs. And I don't know if this is a good time, but would also like the opportunity just to talk a little bit about some of the areas involving emergency communications where wireless enables consumers to remain connected during times of emergencies. Specifically, our role plays as Americans' helpline and makes wireless Americans connect to life-saving services and information when they need it most. Both during natural disasters and emergencies, mobile phones have helped consumers reach first responders through 911 and access wireless emergency alerts with critical and timely information from public safety officials that keep us safe. And just wanted to mention, for instance, text to 911 enables millions of consumers to send a text message to a 911 emergency call taker that accepts text to 911. The service has undoubtedly saved countless lives since wireless providers made it first available nationwide in 2014. So it's been around for some years now. The FCC encourages emergency call centers to begin accepting texts, but the method is actually up to each call center. Call centers that accept text to 911 vary from state to state, and consumers will receive a bounce back message if their local emergency call center does not support text to 911. Also, consumers have the option to check services available in their area, and the information is maintained on the FCC's website. At the end of 2019, approximately 2,700 of the nation's nearly a little over 5,000 emergency call centers, also known as PSAPs, could receive text messages. And that's a very impressive number, it's close to 50%. I also want to just talk to you a little bit about how one would go about sending a text to 911. And in order to send it, you would first open up your phone's text messaging icon at the top of the screen where you type a contact's name or phone number. You would simply enter the numbers 911. You would type the message that describes the emergency, whether you need medical assistance, fire assistance, or police. And you would also like to include your location, city and state, if at all possible. And if you're able to do so, you will provide information that can help the emergency responder find you, such as what room you're in or what your surroundings look like. And if text to 911 is not available in your area, you will receive a message back confirming that the message has not been delivered. And we refer to that as the bounce back messaging that I had mentioned before. And if that happens, we would encourage the end user to go ahead and make a call or dial 911. And also, if I may, would like to just pivot and talk a little bit about the Text to 988 initiative. A lot of discussions are underway there. 95% of wireless consumers throughout the country can connect to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline by dialing the numbers 988 on their mobile wireless device for help with mental health or suicidal inclinations and resources they need to prevent a tragic outcome. Wireless providers made this important tool available a full year ahead of the FCC's 2022 deadline for all voice calling services. At this time, you may have heard this mentioned in other previous panels at this conference, but there's a rulemaking proceeding that's currently underway at the FCC exploring potential text to 988 model, FCC docket 18336. CTIA and industry partners are participating in these discussions, and we're all looking forward to collaborating with the FCC and the accessibility community and engaging in further conversations on this very important topic. One other area I just like to touch on in the way of emergency communications is wireless emergency alerts, also known as WEA. WEA is an alerting network designed to send alerts to mobile devices to enhance public safety. WEAs are sent to mobile devices by an authorized local, state, or federal public safety official to alert individuals to an emergency in their immediate vicinity. Over 95% of consumers in this country are served by a provider who supports the Wireless Emergency Alert Program. All 3 nationwide providers support the service. Information about the WEA program is conveniently located on all of our websites. And in some cases, there may be a special WEA symbol or icon on the device packaging so that a consumer can determine whether a particular device supports wireless emergency alerts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shelly. Shelly, can you actually post that information with the links in the chat? Do you mind just typing that out?
Certainly. Will do.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, Corinne, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Sure, I'm happy to speak to some things that we've heard from the local officials that we work with. In terms of challenges to connecting everyone with broadband, I see a lot of questions in the Q&A about affordability. And another related problem that we hear about is that the current minimum broadband speed just isn't sufficient to meet ongoing household needs, particularly as several people are working and learning from home. And as was mentioned earlier, that there are a lot of people who have roommates, but the emergency broadband benefit only applies to, there's only one benefit per household, and speeds have become a significant barrier, especially since they're generally not symmetrical. So with the upload speed being so much slower than the download speed, accessible services aren't always relayed as quickly as they could be. So as we're thinking about building infrastructure, we really need to think about access and adoption, and how people are actually going to be able to use the networks that are being built. So building high speed, reliable, and easily upgraded networks is really important to ensuring that in the long run, people are able to use accessible services, and also that the services are affordable. So whenever we think about affordability, I saw that someone in the Q&A asked about people who can't afford $20 a month. We hear about several different kinds of affordability when we're meeting with local officials. So in some areas where there's not a lot of competition, prices are generally high. And the leaders there say that in general, prices could be lower, but that there are some members of the community that will never be able to pay the full price, and low income programs can help bridge that divide by making services more affordable. We've also seen communities step in and build like mesh networks and other wireless networks that are available for free to community members. There are some challenges on the speed side of those, so they're really not a good long-term solution, but in the meantime, they can help bridge the divide for people who can't afford broadband service at all. And we know that broadband is especially important for low-income households, especially as the pandemic has moved a lot of government services and information services online, and people are using the internet to connect with job applications and educational tools. So really being able to use those services is so important to the people who can't afford them more than anyone. And with the emergency broadband benefit, we've also seen that some residents don't have the information that they need to enroll in the program. So at NCC, we've actually put together some resources that communities have used to reach out to people. Some have set up phone hotlines, or have actual people in their community, educators, and others who have learned about the program and are on the ground explaining to people how to enroll and really helping them sign up. So we think these are really important steps that should be continued in the future if there is a permanent broadband benefit. And we do hope that there is some sort of long-term solution to addressing affordability, because Lifeline is just not enough for people to have the broadband subscription that they need to use high-speed services over the long run. So and as I mentioned earlier, we've been concerned about mapping at NCC. And in order to be able to expand networks in a way that's equitable and that everyone has service, we need to know who has service and who doesn't. There's sort of another side of this affordability problem that we haven't talked about, which is that some people live close to where a network is, but they're quoted thousands of dollars to tens of thousands of dollars to actually be able to connect their specific home to the network. And so that's a huge challenge for people who can't afford the service that they need, even on a baseline, and to be asked to pay tens of thousands of dollars is unrealistic for a lot of people. So in the long run, we need to think about what sort of programs we could have at the state or federal level that could support that sort of deployment. And we're seeing communities sort of be able to step in and bridge some of those gaps. But there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and the state and federal government can really provide a lot of support that enables communities to be able to help those residents be able to get online.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I absolutely agree. And it really depends on the location and the region that you're in. I was actually just reading through the chat, and I just need to remind several of you that please, all the links that you have, post them in the chat. And then up next, yeah, some people are not qualified for the Lifeline. So that is, one of the biggest problems. Another problem is they can't afford their mobile, because they might have access to wireless broadband, but the problem is they can't afford the mobile and the monthly payments that come with it. So there are a lot of pros and cons, but I think that is just, we got to think about the discrepancies that come with that, because if we provide free equipment, especially like video phones, for example, but many deaf people cannot afford what comes with it, so we can't meet their needs if they can't afford. And then we have to kind of bring it up to the internet providers. Maybe a reduced price package. I mean, that's really the big issue today. So anyways, the next question, I think we're open for questions, some Q&A, if I can look at that and I can read through the chat. Can you guys see the Q&A?
This is Sarah. Yes, I can see the Q&A. And as you're reading that, I just wanted to jump in and note that in addition to Corian and NCC's efforts to help make sure that consumers have all the information they need about how to use the emergency broadband benefit, CTIA also has a page that provides additional information on that program as well. And I believe we've just posted it into the chat in case you want to check it out. And we also work with kind of our state and local outreach to programs to work with groups that provide culturally relevant and non-English language coverage as well. So please check those out as well. Because the goal here is to try to get everybody connected and to help make this program as beneficial to everybody as possible. I think as was discussed just now, there is always work to be done to continue to improve these programs and get them to more consumers than every day. But we're seeing some progress. EBB has enrolled over 4 million consumers now, and we know there's still work to be done, but that is a good step in the right direction at least. And just as an overview for people that might not be familiar with it, the EBB provides a discount of up to $50 a month toward broadband service for eligible households, and then up to $75 a month for households on qualifying tribal lands. And then eligible households can also receive a one-time discount of up to $100 to purchase a laptop or desktop or tablet. And more information on the details is available on our CTIA page on EBB as well. And again, I think there's always work to be done to improve these programs. CTIA supports the Commission's efforts to continue to do that. But one thing that is really positive about these programs is that the Commission recognized the really profound role of wireless services and devices in meeting consumers' connectivity needs throughout the pandemic, and also explicitly recognized the need for those services to be accessible for people with disabilities. And the programs help ensure that future wireless innovations and services can be used to help bridge the digital divide for people with disabilities by recognizing that wireless can continue to help meet the needs of people with disabilities. So we really support the Commission's recognition of wireless accessibility and the need for those services and devices to be in part of these programs to help meet the needs of people with disabilities. Thanks.
All right, so the next question. Do you see Mark Seeger's question? Can everyone see that? Has everyone seen Mark Seeger's question? Yep. Have you all had a chance to read it? All right, so I'll go ahead and restate it. So we need over 400, and it's the best opportunity for people to use the video phone. But typically, if you have under 200 MPS, it's not going to work, just like Zach just said. So I was wondering how we can resolve this. This is a huge question that everyone's having, is how can we increase those so we can fit the speed capability that people are needing to connect to VRS. So I wanted to pose that question to everybody on the panel, if anyone's willing to answer.
I'm happy to speak to some things that communities have done. So some of the communities that we work with have offered gigabit speeds for a long time through municipal fiber to the home networks. And those aren't a perfect solution for every community, but really investing in technology that enables long-term high-speed communications and can be upgraded over time to support higher speeds. So some of the communities that were offering gigabit services for the last 10 years are now offering 10 gigabit services. And with the emergency broadband benefit, we were really fortunate that they were included in that program. So including municipal networks in long-term subsidy programs, while it's not a solution for everyone, it can really support people who are living in communities that have municipal networks to be able to have high-speed services at an affordable price. And in terms of thinking about this more broadly in a policy context, supporting the infrastructure that makes high-speed connections available is a really important starting point for locations that just don't have high-speed service available. And there are so many areas where service is just not fast enough. So even if there is an emergency broadband benefit provider, there might not be the underlying infrastructure to provide faster speeds. So those are just a couple of things that we've seen from communities that we work with.
All right, and I'm going to ask one more question because we're getting close to the time. And just give me a second so I can look at my notes. Very forgetful, so sometimes I have to rely on my notes. Okay, I got it. So we're talking about 3G networks. They're going to sunset those by 2022. Are there any types of disruption that's going to happen with the phone networks when 3G stops and becomes sunsetted? Have you heard any information about that? Any issues that you foresee coming up?
This is Sarah. I can start the conversation on that topic. And thank you so much for that question. I know that there's a lot of attention and questions being raised about what the transition means. So, as I said before, the vast majority of consumers already have transitioned to 4G LTE, but we know that that's not everybody. And again, that's 99% of Americans have access to at least 3 or more 4G networks in their area. But we still know that there are still Americans across the country that are using 2G or maybe 3G devices and networks. But with 5G service expanding rapidly, wireless providers are planning on retiring those 2G and 3G networks to help free up more spectrum that will help fuel the next generation of service. That's because 4G and 5G networks and devices bring faster speeds and better coverage and enhanced security options to consumers. So to help achieve the benefits of those more advanced networks, providers need to kind of repurpose their spectrum resources to allow newer, more efficient generations of wireless networks to be deployed. So today, that work is happening as providers transition the spectrum that used to be used for 2G and 3G networks to 4G and 5G networks. So we've been through these transitions before with technologies, things like the transition from analog to digital, and providers are very conscious of ensuring that there really isn't a disruption to consumers as these transitions happen. So again, we've been through this before, and there are resources available from your wireless provider's website to learn what exactly your provider's plans are for your area. So I would encourage you to look at your, CTIA's website has resources on this, and then individual providers as well. And again, the important thing to take away is that a lot of these transitions are really focused on the bringing faster speeds and to power more advanced applications that will benefit Americans across the country as the transition continues and more Americans have access to these next generation networks.
And I just to jump in real quick, great answer, Sarah, but I wanted to touch on something that I saw Debbie Hagner ask in the chat, which is, if you have 5G, will you need to get a different kind of phone? And only a few devices at this point actually have what we call 5G ultra wideband antennas in them at this point. So even if your area doesn't currently have that high level robust 5G level service, the phone that you have is still going to have the antenna, so you can get the 4G LTE service that you were getting prior. So you don't need to worry that just because 5G is rolling out that your phone will stop working. So great question, Debbie.
Does anyone have any last comments? I'll turn it over to the panel.
I saw the question in the chat about the top 3 things that cities could do to make broadband more affordable and accessible. And we didn't touch on it much, but a lot of cities have engaged in digital equity and inclusion planning, which involves reaching out to the community and asking them what they need, because really affordability is such a local project. So understanding what local residents actually need is the first step to understanding how to solve affordability. And also asking people, what they need in terms of service, hearing from people who are using accessible technologies and asking them what they need to be able to use those technologies ubiquitously and with other people in the home is really important. So I would say the first step there is to reach out to people, to really collect what people need, and then to take steps in the direction of being able to solve those problems.
Thank you. Thank you, Corinne. Well, I think it's time for us to close out this session. We have a couple minutes left, so if anyone wants to get any more comments in before we close out.
Thank you, CM. Great job moderating this panel. I know we didn't really get so much to the smart cities part of the discussion. I just wanted to let the group know that I have been the co-chair for a standards group at the Consumer Technology Association for the last couple of years, trying to put together navigation standards, first for people who are blind or low vision. We did a standard last year on for people who are have cognitive or developmental disabilities. And right now we're trying to put together a group specifically designed for people who are deaf, deafblind, or hard of hearing, to create navigation standards for your population.
Absolutely agree. I thought the same thing. That needs to happen. Yeah.
Yes. So we've engaged with, for example, National Association of the Deaf, Deafblind Citizens in Action, and